Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade, welcoming one of my favorite directors, Nicolas Winding Refn, to Behind the Velvet Rope. Make sure to check out his new movie, The Neon Demon, starring Elle Fanning, theaters everywhere. Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade, one of my favorite directors. Nicholas, I'm telling you, as you're walking in, enormous fan, love The Neon Demon, another one of your just visual classics. How do you come up with an idea like that? I mean, it's so different than anything you've ever done. How did you come up with it?
I don't know. I just kind of close my eyes and I imagine what I would like to see. And I came up with this idea that I wasn't born beautiful, but my wife was. I wanted what it would be like to be beautiful. And I want to make that as a horror movie, but about a teenager. And that's how I got the idea.
Elle Fanning's character is such a fascinating character because we essentially see her evolution through the movie from naivety to essentially being a boss. Talk to me about that journey that she goes through because it's a fascinating one to watch.
Well, the idea was that she goes on this odyssey, I would rather call it, because you can see it from both sides. Either she's like a deer in the headlight, venturing into the world of sin and obsession, depravity, competition, being a victim, or she's the evil Dorothy that comes in to poison everyone else.
One of the things I love about your movies, and I'd mentioned, I feel like every one of your movies is a visual piece of artistry. Talk to me about how do you create the visual canvas when you're making the movies, the process, the colors, the music, everything. To me, it's art.
Well, thank you. It's very kind. Well, I don't storyboard, so I basically come to set and I close my eyes and I go, what would I like to see? And then it comes up. And then usually I look at what time it is. Okay, I got 7 hours, including lunch, to complete everything. Right. Let's put the camera here. And then we start.
It's that much of a freestyle for you because, I mean, I've seen other directors work. It literally is like 5 days of planning to get the perfect shot. You're able to create that type of work, just really that type of freestyling?
Well, I try to base everything purely on my instincts.
Talk to me about Elle. How did Elle become the the actress that you wanted to cast in this role?
Well, Elle was the only actress in the sense that she was the only one who could play the role, I felt. So the agenda was get Elle Fanning.
You're like, agent, call Elle. Is she available?
Yeah. And so I was able to set up a meeting, and we talked and told her about the idea and how much I wanted to make a horror film about beauty and all the sub ideas around that. And she said that she wanted to make a movie for her generation about beauty, which was great because she's 16, I was 44. So we kind of bonded and made this mutation together called The Neon Demon.
It's such a unique look at the modeling world. My show deals, we're in the fashion world constantly, whether it's backstage at a Victoria's Secret fashion show or on doing events. So I get an inside look at the fashion world. How much did you already know going in? Was there a certain amount of research you had to do? Or, again, was it an instinctual thing for you?
Well, there were some technical things that were researched, but I had Abby Lee, who was also in the film, who's a supermodel, who plays one of the characters. She was my go-to info box of whenever something to do with models and authenticity, like ask Abby Lee. But you very quickly realize it's like anything else. It's a very clearly competitive, glamorous, vulgar, exciting, scary universe to walk into. So in the end, it's heightened reality. And I'm just an entertainer, so I'm here to entertain you.
Without giving any spoilers away, that you'd mentioned the word horror, and this does become a horror movie. Talk to me about that spin. When did you, as you're putting this in your mind together, realize, all right, this is a commentary on the fashion world, and I'm going to give people an inside glimpse, But then that horror element, when did that come into play for you?
Well, the first thing, I didn't want to do a commentary because I can't comment on something that I'm equally fascinated by. All I can do is show the future of it. But I think the horror element was that I wanted to make something that would be accessible to a young audience. I didn't want to make a political movie. I didn't want to make an opinionated movie. I didn't want to make a critical movie. I wanted to make a fairy tale because that's the greatest way to hold a mirror up against society. And I feel that beauty is in a subject that we have not fully accepted as the potentials, the understanding, what it means to us. Because on one level, beauty can be very superficial and dismissed. But on the other hand, it's very complex and says a lot about us human beings. And it doesn't take very long for people to start arguing about beauty.
It's true.
So that, to me, the more accessible I could make that, but surrounded in an interesting horror way, the more of a fairy tale it would become.
Your wife made a fascinating documentary, and she gives us a look into your life while making a movie. And you were coming off, I believe it was Drive at the time. And Drive was obviously an enormous hit, and it really shows what you as a filmmaker have to go through on all levels. The difficulties, like, it's easy to see the finished product, but people don't realize how much work. You had Ryan Gosling hustling to get money for financing, then there's a pressure of following up a hit. When you're making something like The Neon Demon, talk to me about that process, the things that people don't see behind the scenes in getting a movie like this made.
Well, getting a movie made is very difficult.
Especially in this day and age.
Yeah, so and I think it always has been. So I respect any filmmaker, no matter what they do, completely hands down. You know, congratulations for even getting it done. I mean, I like to, have control over my films. So that, of course, is one struggle. And then there's all the ups and downs you go through, from loving it to hating it, to hating it to loving it, to being paranoid, to being nervous, to being, almost godlike, to being paranoid, hating it, loving it, nervous. But you can't tell anyone.
That was one of the things in that documentary that blew me away. Was you talk about how you had so much fear inside because there's pressure, there's a ton of pressure, but you can't let that be known on set. How much of it is, for you have to be a leader when you're directing these movies, and you have to be the example for the actors, the crew, and everybody else?
I have to be all-knowing, all-comforting. Yes, whatever we're doing, it's the right way, which usually is a wonderful approach to everything. Sometimes you're inside going, what the hell am I doing? Sometimes you know exactly what you're doing. Sometimes it's somebody else's idea that saves the day, and you just like, thank God we got through it. See, directing is very easy. It's just inspiring everyone else to give their best.
You'd mentioned the word control. We are in a day and age, big studios are making every movie under the sun, every franchise. They can't push them out fast enough. How important is it for you as a director? You mentioned control is everything, but how important is it from an artistic standpoint to have full control?
If you don't have final cut in the movie, you're pretty messed up, because that's essentially, that's your voice. Director is the essence of film. It's like good films are made by good directors, bad films are made by bad directors. And in order not to have anyone mess that journey up, you need to retain the control. Or at least make sure you're so protected that no one will come in and change things.
You've only made 10 movies, and I say only. 10 is already an accomplishment. But having already made 10 movies, do you begin to look at your filmography and do you begin to say, this is where I'd like my next 10 movies to go? Or is it on a movie-by-movie basis, a second-by-second basis? How do you look at the future of your movie telling?
Based on purely film to film. I try not to avoid thinking too far ahead, because then I'll get depressed.
Who are some of the filmmakers who inspire you?
Well, I like everyone. I like everything. I don't have a particular person or a genre. I like all kinds of things. I think there's beauty in everything.
When you make a movie that has such an art feel to it, talk to me about, is there a challenge in maintaining the visual artistry while still staying so competent in the storytelling moment? Is there that challenge in balancing both?
Oh yeah, I mean, the more the more ambitious you are, the more of a thin line you have to walk. But I believe that creativity is partly also about, self-indulgent. And the more self-indulgent you are, the more interesting it's going to become. And your line of walk is thinner and thinner because you're trying to gamble or you're trying to juggle everything the most extreme way as much as possible. But that's also what makes it exciting. I mean, fear breeds creativity.
This is such a departure from the movies like Drive and Only God Forgives. Where would you like to go next? Like, is there already a moment in your head where you say, this is the next direction I'd like to take my vision?
I don't know. I'd like to make a spy movie.
That's pretty cool. Something tells me you've already kind of started thinking this through at this point.
Was that apparent?
Yes.
Bad liar.
Talk to me also about when you look at the filmmaking industry in general, what do you like and what do you not like?
Well, I love everything, but I think sometimes this instant success is unfair because creativity is not about instant. It's about planting a seed. So I'm very happy that the digital revolution has arrived. So now what we do is forever.
Does that factor into your filmmaking when you look at technology advances that are happening right now? How much of that is being factored into what you're creating?
Oh, I very much base my films on both being seen in a cinema, which is my favorite place to see a movie, but at the same time being viewed on an iPhone, which is equally as interesting. It's just different.
We're also seeing now movements of, some of the greatest directors. Every A-list actor on the planet is moving to television. Is that something you've ever given thought to? Hey, I'd like to potentially do an arc where I can really tell a story over 30 episodes, 10 episodes, whatever?
Sure. I mean, I think it's almost mandatory that you have to have a few television in development.
Is there another idea in the head there?
Sure. Got a few ones.
When you look at the Neon Demon, what do you hope people take away from this movie? They walk out of the cinema. What do you hope is inside of them after seeing this project?
An experience.
I like that.
That's what I do. I don't make films. I make experiences.
How about Cannes? Cannes has really become kind of a second home to you to a certain degree. What does the Cannes Film Festival mean to you, and why is it important? I'm guessing it's important for you to have films there, showcase there.
Well, I mean, Cannes is beautiful. It's great. It's glamorous. It's vulgar. It's kind of like a perfect, real version of the Neon Demon. And I like coming there. I like the celebration of film as an art form. I also like that it's a business and it's all about the juxtaposition of the two most extremes, glamour and vulgarity. I relish in those kinds of extremes.
One of the things I love in your movies, and I'll never forget watching Drive for the first time, Ryan says almost nothing the whole movie, and yet he communicates just through eyes and face and mannerisms, and that's very prevalent through a lot of your catalog. How is that something that's important to you, to be able to create communication without a lot of words?
Yeah, because, cinema is about seeing or not seeing, depending on if it's subliminal. And I think that right now we're in a process of where entertainment in terms of film is being reinvented through the digital revolution. So you almost go back to the origins of film, which was an image and music.
Music is another integral part of what you do. My producer and I were talking about it, and she was like, you have to ask him about his music choices. How do you select your music?
Well, right now I work with composer Cliff Martinez. So in Neon Demon, there was only 2 songs external from Cliff. One was Sia, and the other one was my cousin, Julian Winding, who came. And then otherwise it was Cliff who would then compose all the original score. And he comes in even before there's a script. I call him up, I tell him about the idea, what I would like to do, and we kind of continue to talk about musical references until he comes into the editing room and begins to see the film, and then he kind of takes it into his world and comes back with a beautiful score.
Congratulations, man. This movie was such a trip, and like I said, I've really enjoyed the rest of your work, so congrats on this.
Oh, thanks, man.